You said that a lot of your the politics we were talking about earlier, and you said religion. Was that related to foreign policy and religion, or just religion separate from foreign policy that you most followed?
No, I've not just U.S. foreign policy I have issues with. I have issues with the outlook that most Americans have on the world and life in general.
Kind of America focused.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the discussions or arguments that I would get with people online were on the Al Jazeera website, news website. There were a lot of very anti-Muslim, pro-war, I guess you would say, people who would put comments on there. And since it was, primarily it's a newspaper that's read by people over there who actually live in the stuff that happens. And so I used to, for a while, I was putting a lot of comments on there because I was, frankly, I was really surprised at the image that was being portrayed by Americans that would put comments on there. Mm-hmm. And so between that and like my name, most of the people when I would put comments on there would assume I was a Muslim. Mm. But I think it's fair to say that's probably how, or at least that played a major part in how I ended up thinking and ended up being the person I am. Religion had a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. The way I was raised. But I've known since I was 14 that there were things that that I thought were normal and that were okay that nobody else seems to think are normal and okay.
Yeah.
So that's when I just started being a loner, I guess. I got in trouble a few times around that age. People found out about some of the stuff I did, like my parents and parents of other kids who would hang out with me. They would find out about some of the stuff I did, and that's when I just started doing stuff by myself, pretty much exclusively.
Keeping it secret to yourself.
Yeah, I never really. There was one kid that I grew up with, and we used to break in houses together, and mostly like kid stuff. And but then there was a time when I think I shot something. I think it was a dog or a cat or something, and that was too much for him. He couldn't handle it. And so after that, I wouldn't do anything illegal, I guess you could say, with him. But before that, my parents, I used to carry a pistol all the time from the time I was about 14. And, I mean, by the time I was 14, I was basically the same size I am now. I didn't really look 14, and so I could get away with, like, the guns I took from houses I broke into, I could get away with selling them, without anybody knowing about it, without my parents knowing about it. And so I had a lot of guns, and I would always carry a gun. And when I was 14, there were some friends staying with us, and there was a cat of ours that was always getting into the trash, and it was my sister's cat. And I told her at the time, I was like, if that cat gets into the trash again, I'm going to kill it. And so there was this kid and some of his, I think maybe one of my sisters and one of his sisters. We all went up into the woods, and I had the cat with me. And took a piece of parachute cord and tied it to this tree, and the parachute cord was about 10 feet long, and I had a .22 revolver with me, and I shot it in the stomach, and it ran around and around the tree, and then like crashed into the tree, and then started vomiting. And as soon as that, like, for me, I didn't really react. I mean, I actually kind of laughed a little, I think, because of the way it was running around the tree. But then I looked over at everybody else, and the kid who was about my age was with me. He was throwing up, like he was like really, I don't know, traumatized, I guess you would say. And he told his dad about it, and then of course his dad talked to my parents about it, and that was pretty much the last time anybody went in the woods with me. I learned my lesson.